Early summer, idyllically beautiful. The air was permeated with the faint scent of flowers, as if one could reach out and still grasp the retreating spring. The curtains of the floor-to-ceiling windows fluttered in the wind, scattering dappled golden rays that slipped into the dark room and only added to the emptiness and chill instead of warming it. From the floor, a painful murmur resonated, less saccharine than a delicate woman's whisper. "Mother, be careful." On the large bed covered in black sheets and a brocade quilt, traces of the woman's restless tossing wrinkled the once smooth sheets. In her dream, her forehead was covered in fine beads of sweat, and her long, white hand tightly clung to the quilt. "Don't go, Mother. Don't leave me." After an unknowable amount of time, the dream ended. The woman woke up, her 10 fingers whitening from gripping the bedsheet, slowly opening her tightly shut eyes. What kind of eyes are these, almost indescribable by words or brushstrokes? Eyes containing countless stars, shimmering like the smooth surface of a lake, carrying confusion and an underlying, lingering sadness and melancholy, as if bearing witness to bone-chilling despair and the ravages of time. The diffused light filtering through the curtains indicated to Ling Wei that it was already dawn. Her disheveled hair, damp with sweat, stuck to her glowing skin, framing her face with an air of decadent beauty. Her right hand slowly lifted, covering her forehead. Through the gaps between her fingers, her eyes gazed hollowly at the ceiling, giving no hint of her thoughts. A good while later, she sluggishly sat up, leaning against the bed, her gaze drifting to the floor-to-ceiling window across from her. Unconsciously, a gloss coated her eyes as a complex mix of emotions tossed incessantly within her chest. Well, it was the same dream again. This damned nightmare was as vivid as always. Removing the quilt, Ling Wei climbed out of the bed, selected a casual outfit from the wardrobe, and with slow steps headed towards the bathroom. In the misty bathroom mirror, the woman was slim and elegant. The skin, as delicate as mutton-fat jade, appeared extremely fragile under the bathroom's light. But what was more breathtaking was her extraordinary face. Under her flawless, radiant forehead, her brows needed no trimming, naturally and beautifully arched. Her long, mesmerizing eyes were half closed, with perfectly curved and full eyelashes amplifying their allure. Her sable pupils were unfathomably deep, with a beauty mark below her right eye, enhancing her mysterious charm. To not mince words, her beauty was indeed a favor of God, intoxicating and inviting one to contemplate how radiant her smile must be. Ling Wei looked at herself in the mirror, closed her eyes swiftly, then reopened them after a few seconds. The hurt and emptiness in her eyes were swept away. Her eyes relaxed, and a subtle smile graced her rosy lips. Indifferent, aloof, as if a mask was put on. Quickly freshening up and changing into a black casual outfit, with damp, waist-length hair casually trailing down her back, Ling Wei leisurely walked out. Halting in front of the floor-to-ceiling window, Ling Wei reached out for the curtain. The sound of the curtain being drawn was exceptionally clear in the quiet room. As daylight flooded in, a torrent of soft golden rays instantly swept across the room, bringing with it light and warmth. Ling Wei released the curtain, stepping out onto the balcony. Overlooking the numerous rose bushes filling her vision, the lingering scent of roses seemed to soothe her restless heart. A vast sky overhead, hanging with clouds that never seemed to dissipate below it, stretched out the massive Rose Manor. Countless rose bushes unfurled in a kaleidoscope of colors, their intoxicating fragrance enveloping the manor, perhaps even wrapping up an unshakable dream. "Well, the roses are blooming again, huh? Mummy, you find them beautiful too, right?" A gentle breeze tousled her hair, her thoughts began to drift. The piercing collision noises, the eye-ravaging redness, the brittle voice of a dying woman. They all seemed to replay right before her eyes, as clear as day, as heart-rendingly painful. The faint sound of footsteps echoed from behind. Submerged in her thoughts, Ling Wei's eyes flickered, a gentle curve tugged at the corner of her lips. However, this smile carried a warmth that was not present earlier, with no trace of falsity. An unexpected darkness before her eyes, she felt a warm hand. Without needing to guess, Ling Wei knew exactly who it was. A light laugh escaped her lips. "Ruizi, why didn't you notify me earlier about your arrival?" The person behind her heard the woman's words and, with a hint of amusement on his cherry-red lips, obediently let go of her hand. "Big sis, I've told you not to call me Ruizi. It sounds like a girl's name." Standing next to Ling Wei, the man with a height of 1.75 meters was slightly taller than her by 5 centimeters, spasmodically brushed his random chestnut-brown hair. The top 2 buttons of his white shirt were unfastened, revealing his gracefully delicate neck. His fresh, smooth skin, painterly eyebrows and eyes, and his features, resembling Ling Wei by 6 parts, revealed a tenderness and elegance that drew anyone in his vicinity in effortlessly. Ling Wei looked tenderly at the man next to her, disregarded his protest. "Ruizi, where are Chen Feng and Duke?" She remembered that her younger brother and the other two had gone to France not too long ago. Why did they run back so soon this time? Though he disagreed with the nickname, he had gotten used to the name he had been called since childhood. With arms crossed, leaning against the railing, Ling Wei said, "Duke returned to the fortress. Don't know where Chen Feng has run off to this time." Of the three, Chen Feng most enjoyed trotting all over the world. If they didn't have a unique way to contact each other, trying to find him would be more difficult than attempting to scale a skyscraper. A flicker of expectancy passed through Ling Wei's face. That Chen Feng really is. "Have you seen Grandmaster yet?" Speaking of Grandmaster, a touch of softness could be traced in the depths of Ling Wei's eyes. Ling Wei obediently nodded. I just had breakfast with Grandmaster." Ling Wei squinted her eyes, looking up at the azure sky, while Ling Wei silently kept her company. The atmosphere took on an undisturbed calmness. After a while, Ling Wei couldn't resist asking, "Big sis, are you going back to Beijing?" If Grandmaster hadn't unintentionally let it slip during breakfast, would she plan to leave him alone and face that bloody past alone? He couldn't let go of what happened 17 years ago, let alone his elder sister. The incident from 17 years ago became a demon within both of their hearts. Ling Wei maintained a calm facade, not surprised that he had already known about her secret. Thinking about it, she also knew who had told him. It seemed that Grandmaster still could not dissuade her from returning to Beijing and used Rui to persuade her. Seeing Ling Wei remain silent, an impatient Ling Rui fixed his gaze on her. "Big sis, are you planning on leaving me here and returning to Beijing alone?" Beijing was full of danger. The group of wolves and tigers viewed both of them as thorns in their eyes. There was no way he was going to let his elder sister go back on her own. Ling Wei turned to look at him, seeing a touch of blush stain his fair face due to anxiety. A smile curved on her lips as she pinched his cheek. "Why are you so agitated? How could I abandon such a cute little brother like you, right?" Wow, he has a pretty good touch. Used to Ling Wei's behavior, Ling Rui looked into her deep eyes, but failed to understand her thoughts. Though they were twin siblings, he couldn't predict what his elder sister really felt. "Elder sis, I'm serious. What are you thinking in your heart?" Since he couldn't gauge out what his sister was thinking, it was better to directly ask her rather than wasting his thoughts over it. Ling Wei pulled back her hand. Her gaze was as calm as ever. "Ruiza, it's time to settle the scores that we have endured for the past 17 years. Leaving them alone doesn't mean that she has already forgotten everything. The painfully intense agony that has tortured both her and Rui for 17 years, how could she forget? It's time for those miscreants to reap what they have sowed." As expected, Ling Rui felt a jolt inside his heart. His eyes were a little scattered, but he eventually regained his senses. His gaze fell upon the brightly blossoming roses in the distance. Yes, it's been 17 years, already such a long time. They should start clearing those debts one by one. Before he could even speak, Ling Wei's voice resounded once again. "Ruiza, you stay here for now. I will return to Beijing alone." At her words, Ling Rui instantly lifted his head to look at Ling Wei. The traces of laughter near the corner of his mouth vanished. "Big sis, you promised you wouldn't leave me, and we had agreed to get back what belongs to Mommy together." Ling Wei raised her eyes to meet his, connecting with his stubborn and anxious expression. Her lips slowly pulled upwards. "Ruiza, I'm only asking you not to return to Beijing just yet. I am not abandoning you. Don't worry, I won't forget what we've agreed upon." She wouldn't stop him if he wanted to settle accounts. However, for some who were excessively loathsome and sordid, she didn't want him to encounter too many of them. Facing Ling Wei's words, Ling Rui always had an implicit faith. He moved a step closer to her. "Elder sis, when can I come to Beijing to find you?" She wouldn't let him go, so he promised her. However, he couldn't take too long, or else he would sneak off to Beijing. Taking a glance at his soft, chestnut-brown hair, Ling Wei lifted her hand and gestured for him to lower his height. Man, the difference in height was really annoying. Ling Rui looked at her, a little puzzled, but still bent his waist slightly. Ling Wei's slender hand landed on top of his head. She messed up his hair, turning the originally soft strands into a bird's nest. "Ruiza, remember to listen to your big sister, otherwise—" Ling Wei saw through his little thoughts instantly, causing Ling Rui to roll his eyes helplessly. Having such a cunning sister, he was quite distressed. As for others, Ling Rui was fearless. Even his Grandmaster's authority was occasionally put to the test, but in front of Ling Wei, the tiny tiger instantly turned back into a kitten. Grandmaster Ling Wei was well aware of this, and often used Ling Wei to scare Ling Rui. "Sis, you haven't answered my question." Ling Rui lets Ling Wei mess up his hair, bending down compliantly without moving, his sister-obsessed traits clearly showing. Ling Wei gazes contentedly at his head of hair, which now looks like a chicken coop. The untidy strands lend a touch of wildness to his gentle, handsome face. She withdraws her hand to her side. Well, I'm not sure yet, but you won't have to wait long. Her ambiguous words make Ling Rui frown. Seeing that she clearly doesn't intend to say more, he swallows the additional questions he had intended to ask. Never mind. He doesn't have to worry too much about his sister's mischievous nature. After all, he hasn't seen anyone who could take advantage of her, not even sly characters like Chen Feng and Duke. Even they would not dare to offend his sister. The people in Beijing surely can't be worse than Chen Feng and Duke. Sis, when are you leaving? Tomorrow. Have you told Grandmaster? Not yet. Come with me to tell him. With that, Ling Wei turns and heads towards the door, with Ling Rui following closely behind her. Tick, tock, tock. In the grand sitting room, the ticking of the pendulum is particularly clear, making the room seem even more empty. Downstairs, there is not a single person in the sitting room. Ling Rui frowns. Wasn't his grandpa usually sipping tea and reading the newspaper in here at this time? Just as he is about to go and find someone, a middle-aged man walks in. His sturdy build and steady steps immediately give away his disciplined background. Miss, young master. Uncle Li is a trusted confidant of Ling Wei. He helps manage the day-to-day affairs of the manor. Ling Wei and Ling Rui both grew up under his watch, and the siblings are quite close to him. Uncle Li, where is Grandmaster? Ling Rui asks cheerfully. He's in the study. He's been waiting for both of you. Hurry over, Uncle Li replies with his square face full of paternal affection. Ling Wei nods, takes Ling Rui's hand, and they leave together. The door to the study is not closed. Ling Rui slips in first, only to stop at the sound of a strong and amused voice. Luo, Luo, what are you sneaking around for? Ling Rui halts, then struts in with exaggerated swagger. Looking at the figure seated on the sofa with its back to him, he raises an eyebrow. Grandmaster, how did you know it was me who came in? He hadn't even seen him yet, but named him directly. Why didn't he assume it was his sister? Do his sister and grandpa both have some kind of special ability? Ling Wei folds the newspaper and casually places it aside. Looking at his grandson, who just sat down across him, he can't help but let out a hearty laugh. Little Ling Ling wouldn't be as bored as you. No one else but him would keep playing this game after being called out so many times. The elder man sits straight on the sofa in his plain tang clothes. The defined features of his face hint at his handsome youth. The wrinkles on his face mark the passage of time. He wears a pair of glasses on his high cheekbones, giving him an air of kind gentleness and scholar's elegance. Who would ever think the kind and elegant old man before them was once the mafia boss who once rocked M country? Ling Rui huffs. Grandmaster, you're biased. Ling Wei laughs heartily, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes involuntarily revealing themselves. If I don't favor little Ling Ling, who else should I favor? His little Ling Ling deserves to be cherished and adored. Ling Wei, who has just entered, hears her grandpa and brother's conversation, shakes her head and chuckles softly, calling gently, Grandmaster! Little Ling Ling, come sit over here. Ling Wei pats the seat next to him, laughing kindly. Ling Wei settles down beside Grandmaster, crossing her legs, her body as soft as if it had no bones, comfortably nestled in the sofa. Only in front of her grandpa would she show such defenseless behavior. Ling Rui smirks. Perhaps reminded by something, Ling Wei looks at Ling Rui without leaving a trace. Meeting her grandpa's gaze, Ling Rui shrugs helplessly. He couldn't do anything about it. If their grandpa couldn't persuade her, he was doomed. Ling Wei snorts looking at Ling Rui, but in reality he had expected this situation. He shifts his gaze to Ling Wei. He sighs lightly. Little Ling Ling, take care of yourself in Beijing. If you feel aggrieved, tell Grandmaster and I will back you up. Since he could not stop her, he would do everything in his power to protect her. Yes, his sister is cuter this way. Ling Wei tilted her head and laughed with affection, answering her grandfather's soft gaze. Ling Wei lifted a hand to pat the tusk of her head, their harmonious interaction reminiscent of a typical grandfather and granddaughter duo. Sitting up straight, Ling Wei affectionately rested her head on her grandfather's shoulder, wrapping her arm around his. Grandmaster, you must also take care of yourself. I'll be back soon. All right, Ling Wei grinned back. Looking unintentionally at the silver hair at his temples, Ling Wei suddenly felt a pang in her heart. Grandmaster was getting old, really old. Grandmaster, while I'm not here, don't sneak drinks. I'll have Uncle Li keep watch on you. Keeping her melancholy feelings aside, Ling Wei advised him, her eyes gleaming humorously. Despite the old man looking hale and hearty, the effects of his excessive drinking in his youth were now starting to show. Chen Feng had more than once told him to limit his alcohol intake, but the old man, who had enjoyed drinking for more than half his life, found it hard to give it up completely. Whenever Ling Wei and Ling Rui weren't home, he found his way to the cellar to sneak a few sips, only to be busted by Uncle Li each time. A hint of embarrassment flickered in Ling Wei's eyes as she lamely agreed with a laugh. Got it, you cheeky one. Watching their grandfather sheepishly eat his words, Ling Rui couldn't help but laugh, reveling in his misfortune. Ling Wei let out a cunning laugh and snuggled up to her grandfather, planting a kiss on his cheek. Caught off guard, the old man chuckled merrily, his earlier gloom disappearing instantly, leaving a joyful aura around him. Ling Rui, who witnessed Ling Wei's affectionate moment with their grandfather, was now envious and complained loudly. Sis, you're too biased towards Grandmaster. Want me to give you a kiss too? Ling Wei arched her eyebrows and teased. Certainly. Ling Rui's eyes lit up as he moved closer. Just as he was about to offer his face, a well-calloused hand brushed him aside. Off you go. How can a grown-up still act like this? His sweetheart, little Ling Ling, could only kiss him, not this meddling kid. Ling Rui twitched his lips at the sneering tone of the old man. Maybe his age made him believe he himself was still young? They were clearly hogging the affection. How audacious. Even though he believed in respecting his elders and caring for the younger ones, this behavior was unbearable. He began to argue with his grandmaster. Ling Wei, nestled comfortably on the couch, watched peacefully as Ling Rui argued with grandfather. A radiant smile lit her eyes, her gaze drifted out the window, seemed as though it could pass through the sky to reach Beijing. Ah, Beijing. The summers in Beijing approach unusually quickly. After a heavy downpour, the sweltering sun instills irritability in everyone. The airport was teeming with people coming and going, playing out scenes of departures and reunions filled with both tears and laughter. Every day, accompanied by the sweet voice announcing over the speakers, planes take off and land one after the other. Stepping off the plane and out of the airport, she was greeted by the unfamiliarity of this foreign land. Ling Wei hid most of her stunning face behind a large pair of sunglasses to keep her identity undisclosed. Dressed in a black shirt, jeans, and sneakers, her casual attire couldn't conceal the nobility in her demeanor. Without any signs of luggage, carrying just a black backpack, she appeared to travel lightly. Her bulky suitcases had been taken care of by her grandfather's staff yesterday. Hence, Ling Wei just hopped onto the plane with her backpack. After texting her grandfather she arrived safely, Ling Wei took out a duck-billed cap from her backpack, casually placing it on her head before hailing a taxi outside the airport. Despite the vast crowds at the airport every day, taxis are readily available, especially during the day. Within a few minutes, Ling Wei had already hopped into a taxi. Take me to Shijin Haoting, Ling Wei announced her destination before turning her gaze to the window. The driver looked curiously at the woman in the back seat. Shijin Haoting was home to the elites of Beijing. What was this young woman doing there? Considering it to be none of his business, the driver didn't try to pry further and immediately hit the road. The car sped along the streets, the sights outside quickly passing by. Uninterested in the changing landscape, Ling Wei leaned back to rest her eyes. 17 years since she last set foot in Beijing. Returning to Beijing after 17 years, she still struggled to find any affection for it. When she opened her eyes again, glimpses of extravagant and exquisite villas could be seen through her car window, surrounded by lush gardens with scattered fragrant flowers, even perfuming the air with hints of floral scent. The residence chosen by her grandfather was indeed excellent, a decision she approved. In the blink of an eye, the taxi pulled over. Ling Wei handed the driver a few banknotes from her bag, uttering thanks. Taking the money, the driver realized she had paid extra. As he looked up to inform her, he found she was already too far away. Looking at the red Mao-era banknotes in his hand, he shook his head in resignation. Oh well, anyone who could afford to live in this part of the town would not worry about such petty cash. Considering it as a tip, the driver left the place cheerfully. Based on the information she had gathered earlier, Ling Wei quickly located her villa. The villas were distanced from one another, providing ample privacy. She preferred the tranquility. Looking at the code lock at the entrance, without a second thought, she typed in some numbers. Beep, the gate opened. Indeed, it was her birthday contrasegna. Opening the door, instead of entering immediately, she busied herself with the lock, the glint in her eyes revealing her expertise. The swift motion of her rounded and manicured fingertips was a sight to behold. In no time, she retrieved her hand with a relaxed demeanor, slung the backpack on her shoulder and strolled in, closing the door behind her. Admiring the interior for a bit, Ling Wei proceeded upstairs. After an entire day sitting on a plane, she needed sleep. After a refreshing shower, she let her hair air dry and crashed into the bed. Pulling the blanket over her, she was ready to fall asleep. As soon as her eyes closed, the familiar ringtone echoed. Squinting her eyes, she felt around for her phone by the bed, grabbing it and answering without checking. I've arrived. Ling, you went to Beijing and didn't even let us know. That's not very considerate. The man's deep voice on the other end of the phone carried a hint of laughter. Ling Wei let out a small chuckle. All right, how about if I take Ruizi with me? Would that be considerate enough? The man on the other end of the phone was silent for a few seconds. Then his tone turned somewhat hurt. Ling, it's not fair when you always use Ruizi to threaten me. Does this mean our friendship can be so easily tossed aside? Oh, I surely didn't make the right friends. Ling Wei scoffed. Really? Have I threatened you? The man on the other side of the phone seemed accustomed to this manner of conversation with Ling Wei, and swiftly shifted the topic back to the main subject. All right, Ruizi is worried about you. Take care of yourself and call us if anything happens. A warm feeling flooded Ling Wei's heart. A softness filled her eyes. She hummed in response before making a playful jab at the guy on the other end of the phone. I suppose Ruizi hasn't run off to your place again, has he? Her innocent little brother was too easily fooled in front of that guy. As his sister, shouldn't she give him a gentle reminder? The man chuckled awkwardly, then said matter-of-factly, Not at all. I am over at your manor right now. Ling Wei couldn't deny it, and her sleepiness crept up. Without much conversation, she ended the call. Over the next few days, Ling Wei barely stepped outside. She ordered takeout for meals, and everything she needed was in the house, so she didn't need to go out for shopping. While lounging in the living room and playing with her computer, she glanced at the view outside the floor-to-ceiling window. An idea crossed her mind. With such great weather, why not go out for a stroll? Without further ado, Ling Wei closed her laptop and put it aside, then went upstairs to change her clothes. Dressed in a casual black outfit and a duck-billed cap, she grabbed her vintage compact camera, put on a pair of canvas shoes, and headed out. Shijin Haoting, located at the outskirts and away from the bustling city, offered a beautiful, natural view and fresh air that lifted Ling Wei's spirits. This was her first time venturing out after moving in. She leisurely strolled around, appearing blissfully carefree, much like a lazy Persian cat, casually snapping pictures of the surrounding scenery now and then. Photography was one of her few hobbies. Now, she habitually carried her camera wherever she went. She disliked certain people in Beijing, but she held no grudges against these beautiful sceneries. When she reached the lotus pond, Ling Wei stopped and clicked several pictures with her camera, a satisfied smile playing on her lips. Holding the camera in one hand, Ling Wei propped herself up on the railing in front of her, swinging her feet in the air. The sense of suspension was so comforting that she squinted her eyes, her curled lashes flickering enchantingly under the sunlight. It wasn't quite noon yet, and the sunlight wasn't too harsh. The warm rays felt pleasant on her skin. Miss, please don't seek death. If you have something to say, let's talk. Don't be so pessimistic. Just when Ling Wei was about to doze off, a crisp voice resounded from behind, a puzzled expression crossing her face. She turned around and saw several silhouettes in the glaring sunlight, 2 men and a woman. She looked around and didn't find any other women, which made her realize they were referring to her. She's seeking death? Ling Wei's lips twitched, and she didn't know whether to burst into laughter or tears. That young girl sure let her imagination run wild. Seeing Ling Wei showing no intention to get off the railing, the girl from earlier panicked and rushed forward as if she was afraid Ling Wei would jump off any moment. Jiaqi! The 2 men who were with the girl hadn't anticipated her sudden move and quickly yelled in alarm, anxiety lacing their voices. Watching the hurried girl sprinting towards her, Ling Wei felt a throbbing headache. If she collided with her at full force, Ling Wei was sure she'd be knocked off the railing. At this moment, she strongly wondered if this girl was actually trying to murder her. Oh my God, help! The girl moved too fast, combined with the slippery ground around the lotus pond. She couldn't stop herself in time. Her pretty little face lost color as her arms wildly flailed in the air. Ah! The 2 were about to crash when Ling Wei, agile as a cat, caught hold of the girl's collar and spun her around, thus saving her from the momentum that could have sent her straight into the lotus pool. She also saved herself from falling into the pool. Phew, that scared me to death. The girl patted her chest, murmuring with lingering fear. Seeing that the girl was fine, the 2 men let out a sigh of relief. They exchanged surprised glances, then looked at Ling Wei with a hint of amazement in their eyes. Such nimble movements were not something that could be achieved without years of practice. Unaware of their thoughts, Ling Wei hopped off the railing, graceful as a gazelle, grabbed her camera, and was about to leave. Hey, wait! Seeing Ling Wei leaving, the girl quickly blocked her path. Jiaqi, stop fooling around! A gentle voice rang out, filled with indulgence. The girl pouted, looking up at the man who had come up to her. Big brother, I wasn't fooling around. She was clearly trying to save someone, okay? Although, all right, she was the one being saved earlier. The man let out a light chuckle, flicked the girl's forehead, then turned to address Ling Wei. Apologies, miss. My younger sister misunderstood that you were suicidal, which led to her reckless behavior. We hope you don't mind. The woman's indifferent demeanor intrigued him. Her every move had a certain finesse to it, clearly a result of long-term cultivation. A woman of such bearing wouldn't contemplate suicide. It was clear that his sister had made a big blunder. Ling Wei shook her head casually, pulling her cap lower. It's okay. Since I have things to do, I will take my leave now. Anyone who had access to Shijin Haoting must possess significant power and influence in Beijing, and she didn't want to entangle herself with them in any way. Trouble was the last thing she needed. Recognizing Ling Wei's aloof disposition, the girl didn't lose heart. A brilliant smile lit up her face. Hello, thank you for saving me earlier. I believe that a great kindness deserves endless gratitude. So how about we become friends? Although she couldn't clearly see the woman's face, she felt inexplicably fond of her. My name is Song Jiaqi. This is my older brother, Song Haoyu, and my second brother, Song Lixin. Upon finishing, Song Jiaqi looked at Ling Wei with twinkling eyes, awaiting her response. Although she had been in Beijing for only a few days, she had heard about the 3 super aristocratic families in the city. Among them, the Quan family held the top position, followed by the Chu family and the An family. Almost every household in Beijing knew about the Quan family, and the saying, "Quan family products are always of excellent quality," was commonly heard. She wondered if she had just stumbled upon a lucky encounter by meeting the Quan family members on her first outing. Ling Wei partially lowered her eyes, showing no intention of engaging in further conversation. She acknowledged them with a nod, maintaining her distant demeanor. Sorry, I have things to attend to. I need to leave. Song Jiaqi frowned slightly, but still cheerfully smiled. Wait, you haven't told me your name yet. Her intuition told her that this person before her was nothing short of extraordinary. With the hints she showed, many interesting things should happen around her. Ling Wei eyed the people closing in on her and subtly stepped back, looking aloof. No need, we're simply passing ships in the night. Song Haoyu and Song Lixin shared a glance, silently observing Ling Wei. Song Jiaqi persevered. But hey, meeting is fate. Why not at least tell me your family name? Ling Wei lifted her hand to press down on her hat, which was slightly lifted by the wind, and remained silent. Catching a glimpse of the hat on Ling Wei's head, Song Jiaqi's eyes instantly brightened up. Oh, this is designed by March. March, a genius jewelry and clothing designer who had suddenly emerged 4 years ago. Any item designed by March would stir up discussions and enthusiasm, and over the years, March had become an international top designer. However, March would not mass-produce designs, so purchasing a March design required more than just money. Don't ask how Song Jiaqi identified this as a March design. Those who've bought March's products knew that March's designs were embroidered with the letters SY, using a special kind of thread which was impossible to imitate. She had just recently seen this hat in a magazine, knowing it was limited to 10 worldwide. She hadn't expected to see one so soon. Both Song Haoyu and Song Lixin knew about March. Now their curiosity about Ling Wei was even deeper. Buying March goods wasn't easy even for the wealthy. Who exactly was she? Ling Wei pinched the brim of her hat, a hint of resignation flashing through her eyes. How troublesome. Facing Song Jiaqi's enthusiastic stare, Ling Wei suddenly thought of her younger brother asking for her help. After a moment's silence, she finally spoke. You like this hat? Uh-huh. Song Jiaqi enthusiastically nodded. She absolutely loved it. It was a design by the great March. Ling Wei's eyes blinked. Here, take the hat, but leave me alone. Hearing this, Song Jiaqi hesitated for a moment, appearing conflicted, but then quickly nodded. Okay. As long as she lived in Beijing, she could find out her name. See, wasn't she clever? She got a designer hat by March and could also find out this person's name. It was like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Ling Wei removed her hat, revealing her exquisite and beautiful face under the sunlight. Among her features, the most attractive was a teardrop-shaped mole under her right eye, adding an element of posh elegance to her appearance. Wow, Song Jiaqi gasped in awe. The brothers were also slightly stunned. Although all Quan family members were handsome and beautiful, they had to admit the woman before them was extremely beautiful. In their minds, only one person could compare with her beauty. Ling Wei seemingly ignored their surprise. She handed the hat to Song Jiaqi, then turned and left, not giving them a chance to react. Lixin, she is not an ordinary woman, Song Haoyu commented. Song Lixin watched Ling Wei's receding figure and nodded. But I don't remember ever seeing her in Beijing. Such a stunning beauty would definitely attract attention if seen in Beijing. Song Jiaqi's reaction was somewhat delayed. By the time she came around, Ling Wei had already disappeared. She suddenly looked at Song Haoyu and Song Lixin. Brother, where did she go? Song Haoyu replied, She left long ago. Oh no, why did she leave so soon? Song Jiaqi stomped her foot, murmuring annoyingly. Song Lixin took a glance at her, then at the hat in her hand. You've taken her hat? You can't force her to stay? That woman obviously knew they were the Quan family but had zero interest in them. It's clear she didn't want any relationship with them. It wouldn't be good if they annoyed her. Song Jiaqi looked at the hat and giggled awkwardly. This is a March design. She was so lucky today, meeting a beautiful person and getting a March-designed hat for free. She was over the moon. Brother, do you think she lives in Shijin Haoting? Song Jiaqi asked Song Haoyu curiously. Shijin Haoting was owned by their third brother. Their oldest brother should know something. Song Haoyu shrugged, analyzing. There's a good chance. Except for Shijin Haoting residents, nobody else can enter. And judging by her casual clothing, she probably lives nearby. Song Jiaqi was delighted. That's awesome. I'll ask our third brother later. Song Lixin looked at his obviously happy sister, messed up her hair. Let's get going. Don't forget we're here to fetch our third brother. Our grandpa has given us the order. When reminded of this, Song Jiaqi's smile froze momentarily. Oh, right. Their grandfather had sent them here. She almost forgot. Thinking of their grandpa's thunderous and gloomy face, Song Jiaqi shivered, quickly picking up her pace to keep up with her brothers. Brothers, wait for me! Just because they had long legs didn't mean they could forget she was a girl. The black marbled floors gleamed like mirrors, and the opulent crystal chandeliers and cool-toned decor all echoed the personality of the owner. At this time, the three of Song Haoyu were sitting side by side on the couch in the bright living room, their gaze uniformly focused on the man seated across from them. Third Master, you didn't visit the main mansion first when you got back. Grandfather misses you. Song Lixin looked at the silent man across from him, feeling somewhat vexed. The task that their grandfather assigned to them was indeed tricky. The man sitting on the sofa across the room had sharp and deep facial features. At the moment, he was bathed in the radiance of the crystal chandelier, adding a touch of alluring charm to his handsome face. His legs were crossed, every move radiating dizzying elegance and dignity. This was the third eldest grandson of the Quan family, a man whom everyone in Beijing addressed with respect. It was Song Zichen. Although she had grown up in the main mansion with Zichen, Song Jiaqi still felt a certain unease and fear around her third brother. She was most afraid not of the Quan patriarch or her own parents, but of this icy brother in front of her. Song Zichen lifted his gaze, glanced at the three across from him, and slowly said, I'll go back later. He knew his grandfather's temperament all too well. If he came home today without visiting the main mansion, he was sure that his relentless old man would pack up and move into his place without hesitation. This he had absolutely no doubt about. Song Haoyu's three siblings finally relaxed once their task was accomplished. Song Jiaqi then smiled ingratiatingly and said, Third Master, I want to ask you something. Replied Song Zichen, his tone neither heavy nor light. Third Master, did a beautiful girl who doesn't seem real recently move into Shijin Haoting? Song Jiaqi's eyes lit up at the thought of Ling Wei. Song Zichen glanced at her sideways and uttered three words. I don't know. Song Haoyu and Song Lixin were already expecting his response, and thus didn't show disappointment. After all, their third brother's notorious indifference to women was well known. They had never seen any woman besides their family members get close to him. Undeterred, Song Jiaqi persisted. Third Master, are you sure you don't remember? She's impressive and very pretty. As she spoke, she added inwardly that the girl's beauty was more than just pretty. It could even rival that of their handsome third brother. Song Zichen remained impassive. I don't remember. Seeing Song Jiaqi's stubbornness, Song Lixin nudged her sleeve, signaling her to stop. He then turned his gaze towards Zichen. We've received the invitation to Old Master Wang's birthday celebration. Will you be attending this time? Although they didn't have much connection with the An family, their grandfather shared a certain rapport with Old Master Wang. They would have to attend due to this relationship, the necessity of maintaining appearances overriding their preferences. However, if their third brother didn't want to attend, they knew no one could force him. Their question was more out of casual curiosity. After a few seconds of silence, Song Zichen's thin lips curved slightly. Yes. Song Haoyu and the other two were stunned. Song Jiaqi's lips parted in surprise. Had the sun come up from the west today? Had their third brother taken the wrong medication? Wasn't he the one who disliked attending these banquets the most? Zichen, did something shock you? Song Haoyu asked, still finding it difficult to believe it. Song Zichen's cold eyebrows furrowed slightly as he replied indifferently, Attend one banquet, avoid staying at the main mansion. Upon hearing the underlying reason from Song Zichen, the siblings laughed understandingly. It seems it was a trade-off proposed by their mischievous old grandfather. He knew Zichen didn't like dwelling in the main mansion, so using this banquets as bait seemed like a matchmaking opportunity. In all honesty, they also somewhat disliked staying at the main mansion. Their grandfather's chess skills were poor. He not only played and then regretted his moves, but also liked to force them to play chess with him, which was too agonizing. They had not stayed at Shijin Haoting for long before the incessant phone calls from their unsuspecting old grandfather bombarded them, prompting the three to hurriedly rush Song Zichen back to the main mansion. The night was slowly falling as twilight was dawning. Old Master Wang's grand 94th birthday was celebratory. Everyone talked about how respected Old Master An was in Beijing. Those who had received invitations early were all in attendance. The birthday banquet wasn't held in a hotel, but in the An family's old mansion. Aside from Old Master Wang and his son's family, the rest of the An family moved out of the old mansion after they came of age or married. Only during holidays or special occasions would all of the An family members gather at the old mansion for a few days. It had become a sort of tradition, so on normal days, the An family's old mansion was relatively quiet. The An family's old mansion was located in the suburbs and covered a vast territory. Unlike the usual quietness, today the old mansion was particularly lively. Luxury cars were parked one after another in the An family's parking lot. The opulence of these cars was dazzling, almost giving the impression of being in a car dealership. Currently, in the grand banquet hall, enormous crystal chandeliers hung harmoniously in the air. The colorful, dazzling light danced, making one feel slightly dizzy. The guests clustered in small groups, engaging in convivial exchanges. Men were speaking about business deals or recent significant events in Beijing, while women compared their respective appearances and outfits. Drinks clinked, men engaged in profound conversation, and women shared gentle jokes. This was the blend of high society that made one breathless, yet sublimely immersed. Everyone held their wine glasses, conversing jovially with those around them. Despite their attempts to be discreet, their glances towards the elevator betrayed their underlying intentions. In Beijing, there was no one who did not know of Old Master Wang. It could be said that Wang Dexin, the head of the An family, wasn't really in charge. The person holding sway was Old Master Wang, an influential figure who commanded respect without exerting anger. Those in attendance were all too aware of Old Master Wang's influence. They spared no effort in selecting befitting birthday gifts, waiting for the chance to present themselves in front of him. Ideally, they hoped to build some connections. After all, attaching themselves to the An family tree, a giant of Beijing, was a completely beneficial move.